McElroy here, doing a quick little video of Adobe Animate. I'm going to do a really compressed one today just so that we get kind of our basic skills that we were learning inside of class today. We're going to kind of take a baby step forward on Thursday and do some animation tweening. So we're going to go into Adobe Animate and do File New. We're going to do a 16 by 9 character animation. 30 frames or 30 little pieces of paper per second, and it's built on what's called Action Scripting 3. Think of that as like a scripting language like CSS or HTML, where you can attach behaviors to objects, things like stop and play and go to frame and commands like that. So we're going to do create, and here is our artboard. Now remember that our palettes are over here, our toolbar is over here, and our timeline, 30 frames per second, is down here. So we're going to double click on here and name it background, because this is what we created in class. We used our rectangle tool. We made a blue sky, so we're going to draw a box here for blue sky. Now, once we created that box, we used our selection arrow, our regular selection arrow, to click on it to show that it is made up of fills and strokes, and it's little tiny squares of color. So we can actually use our selection box and trim this a little bit. So we're going to use our selection box and trim the edges a little bit. We're still going to make it bleed off of the document, realizing that the pasteboard over here does not exist in our final movie. Now, once we created our sky and we trimmed it a little bit, we're going to draw a big selection box over the entire thing, and we're going to go up to modify, convert to symbol, which is F8, and we're going to convert this thing to a graphic symbol. Remember from class, you have 3 possible symbols: a movie clip, which means a grouped object that has animation inside of it, a graphic that is just a grouped object, and a button, which is a graphic that can have behavioral commands like clicking and pressing, and just like a button would sound, like a website. So we're going to do graphic, and we're going to name it sky. Remember that the names for the symbols are important, because those are the names that will be attached to or associated to inside our action scripting behaviors. Now, I'm going to zoom out a little bit, because we're going to do another rectangle, and we're going to make it the green color. Now remember, in class we drew it a little bit off the edge just to make sure that we could use our selection arrow and draw a selection box around it. Now once we do that, we can also control click, which means which gives us the ability to convert to symbol, and we're going to name this grass field. And we're going to move that up. And so now, looking at our timeline, this little first frame now has a black dot, which means it is a keyframe. And remember, frames are spots in our timeline where nothing changes, status quo. Think of it like a copier running copies of the image as it looks on that layer in that part of the timeline. Keyframes is when an object on your timeline changes behavior. Maybe a new object is introduced, or an object changes a position. Keyframes are for changes in behavior. So what we did was we took our mouse and highlighted all the way from frame 2 to frame 90, which is the total number of frames inside of 3 seconds. And we went to our insert timeline and we inserted a frame. The reason we inserted a frame was because this background is going to be the same for the entire 3 seconds of our animation. Now, once we have our sky and our grass, we're going to insert a new layer, and we are going to call this one snowball. So snowball. We're going to hit enter, and I'm going to lock the layer that is background, because I don't want to select anything on the background layer. Now you'll notice the light gray means that there are 90 pieces of paper, or 90 frames, that make up our background layer. And you will notice the snowball layer has an empty circle, meaning no object has been introduced, and it has no frames yet. So it is a blank layer inside of our animation. And we went into our oval tool, we changed it to white. We held down shift and we drew a circle. Now you'll notice that it has a keyframe that is black, saying that the snowball has been introduced on frame number 1. And you will notice that frame 90, it ends because that was the length of our background layer when we introduced our first element. So we're going to animate in 3 seconds. We're going to draw a selection box over our circle. Now remember the ticker tracker, we're back to frame 1. So we're going to draw a selection box, we're going to control click, and we're going to call it snowball. So here is our snowball layer. And so I'm going to move it. It has smart guides. Remember that when we create a symbol, this registration circle is called the waist of the box. So it's trying to track, based on the smart guides, where we might want this thing to guide. So we're going to start it just off the page. Now, remember, along the timeline, this ticker tape, we can insert a keyframe anywhere along the timeline. So we're going to click our little mouse at frame 3. We're going to insert a keyframe, and I'm going to move this thing a little bit over. So now you'll notice that as I move the snowball, it moves. So I'm going to go to frame 6, insert a keyframe, slide it a little bit further. Frame 8, insert a keyframe. Oh, not a frame. Insert a keyframe, slide it a little bit more. Frame 10, insert a keyframe, slide it a little bit more. Inside 15, insert a keyframe, slide it a little bit more. At 20, insert a keyframe. And we did it every 5 frames. So I'm going to do all the way to 90. So I'm going to move it all the way across the page. So let's move it to there. And I'm holding down shift so it stays horizontal in the same spot. So I'm just dragging this thing across. It looks like I don't even need all of my 90 frames to move this thing across. So I'm going to move it to there. So now if I hit my return, it's off the page. So you can see it's now moving. Now, we went in and we added a new layer. We're going to lock the snowball layer. And layer number 3, we made a snowman. Now, this time we're going to move our ticker tape all the way to frame number 1. And we're going to make each part of the snowman separate. So we're going to draw the base, and we're going to convert it to a symbol and make it snowman base. We're going to draw another circle. We're going to make it snowman middle. We're going to make another circle. And make it snowman head. So now we're at frame 1, and we have the base, and we have the body, and we have the head. So here's the beginning of our guy. I'm actually going to move him over and drop him in there. Now, oh, it looks like I got a little lingering piece I didn't get, but that's okay. So now I'm going to switch to my transform controls and hold down shift, and I can make him bigger. So here he is. Now we got to draw, like what we didn't do in class, which I think we should do, is do also the buttons on his chest. So control click, convert to a symbol, button 1. I think that's it, right? The buttons on his chest. So let's put one there, and then let's draw a new one and name this. I'm doing control click, button 2. I'm going to drop it in there. And then our last one is button 3. Now we did every symbol, every object of the snowman a different symbol. And the reason we did that was so that we could then animate the parts separately. So we got to do his eyeball. So let's do that. I'm actually going to select that and do copy paste so that my eyeballs are the same size. And so now I'll do control click, convert to symbol, right eye, draw a selection box, control click, convert to symbol, left eye. I'm going to move his eye over there. Then I'll move this eye over there. There he is. Then I need the nose. So I got to make an orange circle. Make his nose a little bit bigger. Control, convert to symbol, nose. Now we did the arms as separate arms. We did, not everyone did a smile on him. So let's do his hat. So let's make his hat brown, I think. I made it black in the demo. So I'm going to draw kind of the base of his hat, the brim, and then the base. And I'm going to select it all. And I'm going to convert it to a symbol and call it hat. And then I'm going to move his hat over. There he is. Ooh, I got to use the selection box and move him down. He's gotten kind of big. I might want to scale his hat down a little bit, I think. So let's do that. So let's make it a little bit more like that. Now I did rotate it in the demo and put it on the side of his head. And then others blew the hat off his head, which I think is kind of funny too. And then we did arms, right? So we drew that. I'm going to select it and copy paste and move the other arm over. And so we have control click, convert to symbol, left arm, move that over there. Maybe I should rotate it a little bit. There it is. There's his left arm. And then I need to do this. Convert to symbol, right arm, transform. Probably have to rotate it a little bit. Maybe I'll rotate that one drastically. Move it down just a little. And then we did each finger, so just remember we did each finger. So copy paste, paste. And so we had a total of two extra fingers on each hand. So let's make this left thumb. Make this right thumb. Make this left pinky. Right pinky. So these are all my left fingers. So let's zoom in just a little. I'm going to rotate that a little bit. So there's his thumb. Let's take this guy, drop it in there. Take this guy. This is supposed to be his thumb. So I've got to rotate that. Drop that in and take this one and bring it like that. Yeah. I probably have to rotate that one too, just based on the rotation of my hand. So let's do that. All right, there he is. Now, just for the sake of the demo, we're going to, now that we have the snowman broken into symbols, we're going to insert a keyframe. And then in that keyframe, we're going to move his hat. This is what everyone did in class. They blew his hat off. So there goes his hat. And so let's insert another keyframe and move it even further, rotate it even more. So now you can see, let's insert another keyframe. Let's rotate it. We actually probably should move its distance a little bit too as we rotate it. So let's move it that way. So there it is. And then control, insert a keyframe. We'll move it even further, rotate it a little bit more, maybe even move it down so it's like really blowing. And let's do insert a keyframe. Rotate this baby a little bit more, move it down even further. So there it goes. And then control, insert a keyframe, tumble it a little bit more, and move it off the page. And so now, oh, he's looking bald. There goes his hat blowing off. I'm going to hide the snowball layer just so you see his hat blowing off. Now, we went back to keyframe 1, and his eyes are like that. So then like a keyframe 10, let's zoom in and make his eyes smaller. So I'm going to hold down shift and make him look like he's blinking a little bit. So now, so there he is, blinking. And the last little part of our animation was to show that you could test the movie. And there he is. And we did a save as, and we named it Snowman last name. And remember, .fla is the file extension, so we'll save that. And notice when we test the movie, I'm going to actually do a test scene just so that you can see. Allow. It's an SWF file, so it turns into a Swift file. So that is our keyframe by keyframe animation. Good job today, gang.